And Eli will cue music also when you're ready. Hey, welcome, welcome. We're just giving people just about a minute to come in and populate the room. It's great seeing people who are coming in. So we're just giving you just a moment to get in and to get settled. Hey, as you're coming in, can you just drop in the chat where you're from? If you're in Madison, if you're in Milwaukee, if you're outside of Wisconsin, we'd love to know where people are tuning in from. If you're from work, you can, if you're at home, let us know that you're out there. Just another few seconds before we get started. Just a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here. Um, I'm Dr. Alexander G., the CEO and founder of the Center for Black Excellence in Culture. And I want to welcome you to this online, this virtual experience of learning more about what's happening at the center. We've given this an exciting name. It's called History in the Making, because we tend to think that history is just about looking back, but it's also looking around us and looking ahead. And I'm excited to be able to have this space to be able to talk with you and update you on what's taken place. If you've not driven past our space on the West Beltline, right at the Park Street exit, you need to. It's even worth going out of your way. If you don't drive the Beltline, reroute. If you don't ride your bike that way, retool, but come by. And I want you to see that beautiful gem of a facility that's just growing out the ground up on the hill on West Badger Road. It is so exciting and beautiful to see, and it's exciting my heart. Listen, I want to jump right in to our presentation tonight because your time is precious, and we want to start on time, and we want to make sure that we get you out of here right at 5:45. And so, thanks for being here. Listen, I want to introduce you to someone who is the newest addition to our team. He's not a stranger to the area of Madison or to the state of Wisconsin. It's Mr. Jason Fields. Jason wears a number of hats. He does a number of things. We met in passing years ago. We reconnected when he came to Madison to take a job. Um, Jason has just a very eclectic background. He's had his own VC fund. I think the first Black VC fund, venture capital fund in the state of Wisconsin. He's a former stockbroker and banker. He served our state proudly as a state legislator. I think he was wearing that hat when I met him. A job moved him here to Madison to be the CEO of MadRep. He's a doctoral student, so he's working on his PhD, and in his spare time, he's my chief operating officer. My number two, he is the guy that has been tapped and challenged for standing up the programs and the dreams and the relationships of this center. But in addition to all of the things that Jason does, people don't know this, he's also a radio personality, and he's been a part of a talk program in Milwaukee for years. In fact, he's still doing that. And so rather than just having me come on and just talk and update you about things that are happening, thought I would relinquish the mic, turn those controls over to my colleague and my friend and associate, Mr. Jason Fields, so that we can kick off the end of the celebration of Black History Month, as well as updating you on some exciting things about the center. So, with that, Jason, welcome. This is your first really coming out to our broad team. Great to have you here. How are you doing tonight?
Reverend Dr. G, you all, my nickname for Dr. G is the Walking Phenom. So if you ever hear me refer to him as the Walking Phenom, it is because since I've been with him and our paths have crossed, uh, just a prime example of what leadership, innovation, things that I inspire to do and be. And so happy and honored to get this chance to one, interview you because I wanted to interview you so that we can really get down to some of the nitty gritty and to hear from you about the center, your vision, and why this is an opportunity for Black Wisconsin and Black folks, period. And so, thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you to our team, everybody making this happen. And so, we're in the middle of, or on the cusp end of Black history, and you and I have been running around ragged. We're doing all kinds of stuff and we are having a great time. But for everybody here, and thank you all for participating. I see we're at 90 people now, so that's great. Doc, tell us, what's the significance of the center during Black History Month?
That's a great question. Um, you know, it's important to us to make sure that Black history doesn't feel like a museum where you go and look at sometimes the remains. Like I'm thinking about the King Tut presentation I saw when I was in middle school. I'm showing my age. Um, or where you just keep looking at things that are ancient history. But for me, the celebration of Black history is not only looking at those whose work and story and courage have provided a foundation and shoulders for us to stand on. It's also about looking to our left and right and around us to seeing history makers. Wisconsin's first Black elected mayor, so many other Black first in our community and accomplishments. So it's looking at those who are alive, who are making history, but we're also doing great work so that we continue to build space and to develop folks and to make plans and space to help develop people, Black people who have not even been born yet. And so for me, it's anything but looking back. It's not just let's go see the Martin Luther King Jr. exhibit, although it's worthy of it. Let's go see the Rosa Parks exhibit, although it's worthy of it. There are so many Black history makers that are alive today, and there's so many ways in which Black folks have made history in Wisconsin. And really, what we're wanting to do, Jason, is to help people to understand because right now, when people think of the Black population in Wisconsin, for some people, they think of issues, disenfranchisement, mass incarceration, disparity, and that's part of the story of Black people in Wisconsin. But we're elected officials and we're social entrepreneurs and we're business owners and we're second and third generation college students. And we're leaving resources to our children and we're inheriting them from our children. We're having Black people retire from state government and city and county government. And there are so many of us who are doing well and who want to give back to the community. So for me, um, Black History is a month of thinking about history and history makers. That's why we've given this talk that topic because it's all around us. This is not just past tense; it's all around us. And so for me, I want to make sure that the center is a place where we stop the concept of thinking that one, we only look at Black history and influence in February. We're going to
Mhm.
celebrate Black history every day of the year, but it is not merely about looking back. It's about looking around and looking forward.
Doc, one of the things, and I want to get this and make sure everybody understands. Where did this vision come from? And before I get to some of my next questions, because this didn't just happen overnight.
No,
This was 40 years in the making. But then, if you could tell me how we got here with the involvement in the community, because you went to the community.
yes, yes. It's a big, big question and a great one. I will say um, there's a real benefit of doing this work in my own backyard. I have to say that there's something that there are probably special ingredients that all make up the secret sauce. I think there is a secret sauce, but one of the ingredients I think that is that's a part of a secret sauce in the success of programs like this is the level of indigeneity. That I'm from this community. I grew up in this community. I delivered newspapers in this community. I started my preaching in my church in this community. I learned to community organize here. Um, and so it's that's really important to me. I met my wife in that community off campus. And so I think that piece is very important. But that goes back to things that were just stirring in my heart, even as a high schooler, that there was something significant that I was supposed to do, whether it's a premonition, it's a calling, it's a deep sense, it's the movement of the spirit, depending on your background it's communicated differently, but I had a deep sense of knowing, Mr. Fields, that I was supposed to be a part of something that was going to promote the good of my community. I didn't know that was going to be statewide, but I knew that I was going to be a part of that. I think part of it unfolded in my establishment of Fountain of Life Church, because that gave me a chance to draw people from all over the community. In the early 90s, we created a nonprofit. It was called the Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development, where we wanted to provide social service and leadership development work for Black families, Black children, youth, and families in working. So that was really important. So for nearly 35 years, we've been giving back to the community by working with children, developing leaders, empowering folks. Um, we're now serving the children and grandchildren of kids who are in our programming in the 90s, the children and grandchildren of participants in our programming. When I wrote Justified Anger, an op-ed news article in 2013 that went viral, I talked about the importance of Black people needing to be at the table. That led to a series of discussions that included over 700 Black folks in the community and listening and asking, what will it take to move the needle? Like, what do we need to do? So the beautiful thing about that, Mr. Fields, is that when funders heard that we wanted to build a multi-million-dollar space that was going to focus on the proliferation of Black culture and excellence and celebrations in South Madison for the entire state, that was unique to hear us talk about culture. And the first question was, well, is this the same as what Dr. Anthony or other folks are? Is this the same? And I remember the pride with which I said, we've listened to 700 Black folks. No one has ever surveyed 700 Black people in Madison, Wisconsin, in Dane County, um, interview Black people by Black people to figure out what Black people want to promote Blackness. So I said, I'm not pushing my own agenda. I am the messenger of what my fellow influencers and residents have said. And the ability to say that in a flat-footed manner, as my mom would say, my shoulders squared, and communicating that we asked for this space where our children aren't seen as problems to be fixed, but a place
Right.
where they're leaders to be developed. And so we got here because that message resonated with folks. So even during COVID, we started having listening sessions with Black moms and young 20-year-olds who were born in Madison, and teachers and educators and physicians and lawyers and state workers and entrepreneurs. And the Black community said, we need space to gather. We want our kids to meet each other. We want our kids to have role models. If there are Black doctors and psychiatrists who are doctors and engineers and lawyers and plumbers and electricians, we want to meet. There's no single place to go and meet. We don't have that single space. And we responded to that. We said, here's a place where we can come, congregate, network, learn from each other, motivate each other, which, Mr. Fields, is true to our history.
Yeah.
It's what Black folks did. It was never about an individualized perspective because our worldview was collective, it was familial, it was relational, it was communal. And so having places where we bring our songs, our music, our stories, our celebration, our excellence, and not just our pains and our needs, and please, sir, I need some more,
Right.
to bring what sustained us for half a millennium in this country, to bring that back, to replicate what happened 100 years ago when the Black community moved north during the Northern migration, but used music and playwrights and authors to celebrate our music and our song and our stories, which was our strength. We thought, why aren't we doing that again? It worked 100 years ago. Why can't we do this again? So we doubled down on the fact that that's how we got here. Our strategy was unique, and it resounded with not only Black influencers, but white funders, white business leaders, white elected officials. They said, That's beautiful and it's powerful. But our response was, that's also historic and it works. Not just because it's history, but because Black people said, this is what we want. And when we're at the table and we get to choose the menu, we eat.
That's right. You know, one of the things that we talked about, and you and I in our some of our private discussions, is that this is this is not just Madison or Dane County. This is
Correct.
not even just Wisconsin. This is the potential to be nation worldwide based on some of the programming that we'll get into in my next question. But this is for all Black folk. Talk to
It
me
is.
about the diaspora and
Sure.
even bringing that into the center.
Definitely. Well, we wanted to have this unique approach, and it was actually inspired during my trip to West Africa in 2019. And I was a part of the group of 300 Black folks who were just on one of the many trips back to Ghana to see the dungeons from whence our ancestors descended through the door of no return. And I remember this tour guide, and this is appropriate to say in Black History Month. He said to a dungeon full of Black folks, and most West Africans who were enslaved came through that particular dungeon. This wasn't just one of hundreds. This was one of a few. He said the fact that you all have survived and you've come back to Africa to remind us of your strength, you push me to say you are the descendants of the strongest of our strong. You are the descendants of the strongest of our strong. And we are so proud of you that you all have made it and you came back to show your strength and your love for Africa. You are victorious. And I almost started boohooing now for a whole lot of reasons because that dungeon will make you boohoo.
Yes,
But
it
that
will.
almost pushed a brother over the edge. And I said, whatever this idea is in my head about this space, it's not going to commemorate the Middle Passage. It's not going to commemorate the transatlantic slave trade and Black people jumping off of ships and sharks eating them and Black people rolling over and smothering their babies to avoid what was going to happen in the New World. No, 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 no. It was going to be about that strength that he talked about, that grit, the nature of Mother Africa. So we made a point, Jason, that the focus was going to be on the collective footprint of Pan Africans, folks from Africa, folks from the Caribbean, folks from who identify as Afro-Latino, because we know that more Africans went to Brazil than all of the United States.
That's right.
Only about 5% of those taken from Africa actually got to the United States. So those from Africa, the Caribbean, those who identify as Afro-Latino and African American, we're going to come together through our associations. We're going to meet and introduce our children and bring our cultures together and celebrate our strength, our music, our swag, our stamina, our faith, our culture, our song, our joy,
Yeah.
Black thriving. And that's resonating like because when people look at it, it's not the Center for African American Excellence in Culture. We say Black because we're referring to the entire um, Pan-African diaspora and experience. And now I do believe that we are a national model, but my
Mhm.
goal initially is to reach Wisconsin. My initial goal is to tell the story of Black first in this space of Black Wisconsinites, that it is to give a space for folks that are doing their own research in La
That's
Crosse,
right.
Beloit, the fantastic business work and philanthropic and entrepreneurial work of folks in Milwaukee. You and I have talked about strengthening that corridor, that 94 corridor between
Mhm.
Milwaukee and Madison, which is dysfunctional between white businesses, white governmental leaders,
Yep.
just a Black thing. But because we are part of businesses and entrepreneurial systems, it's weakened the connection between Black Milwaukeeans and Black
Yeah.
Madisonians. No, no, no. We're going to strengthen that road, that avenue, and the one that takes it to La Crosse and Beloit and the Black folks in Green Bay, and all over the state where we have made history, where we have made Wisconsin healthy and safe and excellent, where we get up and go to work every day to promote the Wisconsin motto of forward. We are part of that. We are not just an afterthought, and we are not just a scourge on the state of Wisconsin, and we are not just inmates in Wisconsin's prisoners. We are in cabinet positions, business positions, educational positions in a way that's changing the game. And so we are here in many places. Our goal is to tell the story of the Black presence and to celebrate that Black presence, but to also bring partners from across the country to come and see and understand us. We want the white community and the non-Black community to be able to celebrate Black accomplishments. We want to work with young children, elementary, middle, and high
Mhm.
school, to understand the work that Black folks have done to make life good for all of us before they hear about the prison statistics or Black infant mortality rates. I want them to understand that we are contributors and that we are Wisconsinites. We should all be proud. And we want to just celebrate our success and not wait around for someone else to do it or hope someone else will do it. We had the idea to do the space, and here we are $30 million and 37,000 square feet later in this process, and we're going to complete this construction in late 2025, this year, somewhere
Yeah.
around Thanksgiving or the early part of December. And it's history making in that it is Black led, Black designed, Black motivated, and that our first 300 donors were from the Black community. That's amazing. That's never happened.
So, Doc, I want to get into some programming a little bit. And one of the things that jumped out at me, which was, again, it was a no brainer. Number one, getting to work with you and being a part of something that's not been done, right? Um, is the fact that we're moving away from everybody studies what's wrong, right? Everybody and their mama is studying and telling Black folks what's wrong, including Black folks. This this is different though.
Yes.
Talk to me about this idea of our innovation and research and studying what went right for us.
Come on now. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. Now, part of this is because I'm a historian, but I'm also cultural theologian, and then I'm a practitioner. And like you said, I'm tired. I can go and find 15 reports in the next 30 minutes of how and why you and I are going to die more quickly than our friend Jim Yaley, who's a white guy who's the
Right.
CEO of Findorf, our construction company. I'm tired of reading that because none of that tells me, well, how do I not become that statistic? And we do know that some Black folks emerge and we're not the statistic, but we're only studying what's pejorative. We're only telling people, guess what? You're going to die. You're going to die. Like we're telling folks this, your babies are dying. You're the, I talked to someone in my pension office and they said, racism even shows itself in retirement
Yes,
plans
it does.
because, and this is like with my pastoral hat on, because Black men who are pastors don't live as long as white pastors. And so really you're financing the retirement of white folks. I said, like, in addition to everything else that's going on, you're gonna tell me that I'm supposed to just go and have dinner and then, watch the Bucks play. Those kinds of realities are so blaring, but how do we avoid it? So I'm networking with Black researchers on campus and as friends and associates like Richie Davidson in the Center for Healthy Minds and the staff of David Rakel in um, family medicine and community health. I'm working with the African American Studies Department and their chair, Dr. Christy Clark Pujara. I'm working with Jerome Garrett, who's a friend and a donor and an administrator in family medicine. Sorry, Jerome, I'm butchering the name of the department. Because what I want to do is measure the impact of culture, belonging, gatherings on healthy mindfulness, healthy physicality, healthy physiological responses to life and stress. I want to show that when we're together, it's therapeutic. When we sing, when we create, when we don't code switch, it takes energy to code switch. It takes energy to get up to go to work. You and I have done it to be the first and the only always. It's not just it's not just made up, the first to arrive, the last to leave, because we want to be able to show we can do this, and then we work twice as hard to just be seen as average at times when it takes brilliance to do what we do in that vacuum in which we do it. And so we want to measure that impact. And so we're already working with Black researchers already so that we're not just going to do this and say, this is fun. Black people, we doing it. We celebrate. We with each other. Ooh, blickety, blickety, blickety,
Right.
black. No, 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 no. I grew up in Madison. I grew up in the backyard of an R1 research institution. I know that there's a way that we can show the efficacy of what we do and make it substantial and prove it empirically. That's what we're going to do. We're going to show that what the center is about, what we suggest and profess about the power of coming together, we're going to show that it is going to have an impact on healthier outcomes, which means our center is really about wellness. It's really
So,
about us.
you and I talk about this as an opportunity. For everyone listening right now, I'm going to do a church phrase, all those under the sound of your voice. So
Right.
the opportunity, list some of the opportunities by what we're having or what we plan to have in the center. We have a women's wellness center, and just rattle them off, because I want
Sure,
people to see the opportunity.
sure. Our communities are strengthened and held up by Black women. But where are
Yes.
the centers that make sure that they have, and I learned some of this language from you, personal literacy, personal financial literacy, business literacy. How are we undergirding them to invest and to grow so that they can continue to do the phenomenal jobs in our community that they do? There's senior space that's going to be named after my mom, who passed away a
Yeah.
year ago, who's my deep, deep mentor, my motivation, so that we can help other aging Black folks tell their stories. I'm a storyteller, so people know my mom's story, but there's so many other Black people out there with great stories. We want to capture their stories as well as give them intergenerational space, because there's something that our children and teens need from our elders, and there's something that our elders need from our teens. There's innovation space, and not just typical business incubation that you think about, but incubation and innovation in the arts, in performance, in social media, in video, in podcasting. How do
Mm-hmm.
we help folks to turn what's sort of a side hustle into a bona fide business where you can pay yourself and have a 401k and these kinds of things, networking space within our private lounge for the various African associations to come maker space so that people can tell their stories as artists, theaters. We can have a beautiful theater that holds nearly 300 people, like 280 people, where we can do film festivals and comedy shows and like book festivals, and we can have concerts and retracting seats so we can have banquets and meeting spaces and networking spaces and kitchens so we can have caterers come in and provide meals. It's a deep sense of community. It's a deep sense of gathering. This is our performing art space and where we can gather to tell our stories. And we don't believe that there's a Black-owned theater space in the entire state. And so being
There's
able to do
not.
that so that we can communicate with Black playwrights around the country,
Right.
Black performers around the country. I was just in New York recently and went to a comedy show and just saw this young Black comic, and man, he was just had us in stitches. And one of my team members went up and said, "Hey, we're building this space. We brought it up on the phone. We showed it to him. We're creating a space next year. We want you to come to Madison." This man has like 80,000 followers. He looked at it, he said, "I'll come to Madison. Here, take my phone number down." He didn't say, "Hey, here's my agent," or go through this. He's like, "Hey, take my number down." And so um, this space to celebrate culture and innovation and thoughtfulness while still having space for researchers to come in, spaces to sit and talk and strategize and bring leaders together to create solutions. Think tanks, think tanks, not just how we get more pencils and school supplies, and we do need those.
Right.
I'm not belittling that, but how do we influence research on dementia? How do we enhance research on Black mindfulness? How do we do these kinds of things? And we have this beautiful space that has artwork that reflects us and sounds and smells that reflect us, and a library about Black works, and kids can come in and learn about Afrofuturism. Yeah, man, we got something for everybody up in here.
You've built an incredible network of Black leaders, creatives, entrepreneurs, social entrepreneur, which I learned a new phrase that I've gotten from you. How do you see the center shaping, the future for Black professionals? And when we say professionals, we're not just talking about CEOs, PhDs, people who wear a suit and tie. We're talking about Black professionals, whether you're a plumber, in the trades, what have you. How do you see the center shaping Black professionals, and how do you see us shaping youth statewide?
Sure. I'll say it this way. Everyone who's on this call is in some type of association. If you're a teacher, if you're a plumber, if you're a professional, if you're an attorney, you're a part of some association where you go for professional development. But when you go to those places, how many people who look like me or Jason are there? So this audience understands, the world understands the importance of like people being around like people. It's why we have unions to train, to bring people into our particular field. We get it. It's just that those aren't designed for us, by us, and with us. And so we can go to those places, but we're always code switching and crossing in and trailblazing. Well, if we had those same opportunities and those same spaces that reflected us, we would evolve so much more quickly. There's a signature program that I created in one of my other in my other nonprofit in Nehemiah. But I was in Chicago. I saw a program, an after-school educational program. It was, shaped in Chicago. I did the transposition in my head. I came back and said, I know how to make that work in Madison. We're not Chicago, so we can't do it the exact same way, but I know how to Madisonize that. I did it, but I saw people who look like me doing it. Let me tell you something, representation matters. I don't care what people say. We can talk about what the legality of it or the illegality of it. I need young folks to come in here and say, if he can do it, I can do it. Like, how did you, and not just see me do it, Jason, we're going to teach them how to do it. It's not just like, yeah, just take no, look at me, young man. No, 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 no. I'm not going to talk about when I raised that 30th million dollars. I'm going to talk about how nervous I was raising the first 100,000. I'm going to talk about the
Mhm.
sleepless nights and the people who told me, you can't do that. It's too busy, too many other people out here, too many other Black things that are going on. There's not enough Black people to support this. I want to teach them not only how to thrive, but how to thrive as a Black person in the state of Wisconsin. How do you turn being the first and the only into a strength and not a weakness? And how to teach and model, or model and teach the ability to maneuver and thrive in a place like Wisconsin, because there's space and opportunity for the Black community here if we don't become sick and bent and discombobulated and disenfranchised before we get to that point. Our space is not just where you come together and create your business in a vacuum. No, we want people in the innovation space to network and to share and to collaborate, and marketers to meet singers, to meet podcasters, to meet consultants and public speakers. And our space is not just where you get walled off from the world because you just need part-time affordable rent. You go for the community as much as you do the space. And that's what I love about what's happening, because seeing is believing. We want people to walk in and say, you're a doctor, you're a scientist, you're a professor, you're a researcher, you're an attorney, you're a judge. We want people to walk in because we believe that Black excellence needs to be normalized and it does not need to be the exception.
So, Doc, I have two more questions. And the first one, and I talk about this particularly for my people in Milwaukee, and I've talked to you about it, how in Milwaukee off the 55th and Capitol, there was a Starbucks. And most of us who know this Starbucks we just knew it was a place for us. When people hear the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, what do you immediately hope comes to mind for them?
Hope that rather than leaving the community, or for folks in Milwaukee and Beloit and other places, rather than leaving the state, to hear a band, to see a film, to see a play, to listen to a comic, I hope people will think, what's going on in Madison? What's happening in Madison? I hope that people think empowerment. I hope people think about celebration. Now, the benefit of this is that when we have these shows and these plays, the entire community is welcome to come because we want to celebrate our culture. There will be spaces and membership for members of our community because we've got to address the disparity and the disenfranchisement that is in our state. We rank as the worst place to live for Black people, and we got to fix that. So we are going to not be apologetic about that. We will have space that will be for members and participants and entrepreneurs for the Black community to work and heal, then thrive. But there's other places where we want people to come on in. The water is fine, and hear our bands and listen to our comics and hear our lecturers and see our performances. Um, but we will be unapologetically focused on the strength and the needs of the Black community, because all you have to do is pick up one of these negative reports we've talked about and see what we're dealing with. But in order to rectify that, we can't heal ourselves and the entire community. That's not our task, and no one else has that responsibility. May I repeat, no one else has the responsibility to heal themselves and then everybody else. But we get tasked for that. We get tasked, and I believe that if we have space where our own healing will not be interrupted by the assistance of others who don't get our need for healing, if that can be go unhindered without being impeded, when we come together, we know how to heal each other. We know how to affirm each
Mhm.
other. That's why people drove to 55th and Capitol, even when they lived someplace else in the community. They went
Right.
there because there's a power in the preponderance of Blackness. And you told me these were folks who may have been on the up and up, but they were elected officials. You went there
Yeah.
as an elected official, business leaders, attorneys, because in a place like Wisconsin, it does us good to see us, to look at each other in the eye and say, "Hey, you good? How you doing? What you drinking over there? What you working on?" I
Right.
want people to think that, hey, if I'm going to be in the Madison area, I got to stop by the center, not just to see what's on the walls, not just to see
Right.
exhibits, but Jason, the living exhibits being our brilliance and our energy and our collective energy, and our children coming there to meet doctors and attorneys who are Black, who just want kids to see them and to understand them, and for seniors to know that the youth need them, and for the youth to know that the seniors see them, because our Black folks just disappear when they get older and get sick. And I don't want Black folks sitting at home by themselves sick, like my mom had to a bit. We found community programming for her as her dementia progressed. But she was always one of a handful of Black folks. But if she could do that, where her dignity has remained, because even if she's in a demented state, that's still Miss Verline. And we're going to celebrate her and get her some coffee, and we're going to understand her. And even if we don't understand what she's saying, we're going to say, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And so, yeah, we want that kind of space. I believe that the ultimate effect is that it will change us so that we engage Dane County and the state. Our goal is not to change and rewire the entire state of Wisconsin. It's to give members of the university, staff at Exact Sciences, at Epic, at researchers, law firms, when they want athletic departments, when you want somebody to move to Madison, you might want to come by the center and bring their students and bring their spouses and bring their families. We're also going to reach out to the campus and give space for Black faculty to get off campus, Black students to get off the various campuses. Because when we have community, we can thrive. And when we thrive, we know this: when Black people do well, everyone does.
Everybody does it. Last question, and this leads into the next segment. What's the call to action, and how can Black communities across Wisconsin connect, support, and work with and benefit from the center?
Great question. I'll just say this. I'm going to say this now, then I'll say this again at the end. Join our mailing list. Click the link and get an update on what we're doing. We're making history. Last week, we kicked off a campaign called History Makers, or History in the Making. I'm going to talk about that again a little bit at the end. Anyone who gives will be a part of making history in the state of Wisconsin. But right now, the big need that we get, I mean, people ask, how can I volunteer? We will need all of that, but all of that is a moot point if we don't get this building completed. We're only $1 million away from a completely debt-free $31 million facility. We're only $1 million away. And so we just need people to help us. We need people to support us. I'll show this now. I'll put it up again at the end, but there's a QR code and there's a place where you can click a link. We're going to send this link to you, because here's the other call. I don't want you just to give. I need you to share it to everyone who says they care. These issues are important. They have concern about the Black community. They love Black people. They've adopted Black people. They've married Black people. They've befriended Black people. They care about these issues deeply. We can't be silent while those who are against the proliferation of Black folks in our stories are becoming very loud. We need to hear our non-Black allies. We need to hear you, but we need to feel you. We need you to do more than just say, that's great. I want to see the program. I want to see the stats. You've read the stats. We're failing in this state, but we can do something today that will make this better. Help us close this gap. Help us close this $1 million gap. We're running this campaign until the end of May. I'm sorry, to the end of April, the beginning of May, the end of April. I'm going to show you what it's going to look like for everyone who donates. I'll do that a little bit later, but this is what we need. This is what we need. And in fact, that's a great segue, if I may, Mr. Fields, to bring just a guest on who I'm just going to ask a few questions to. I do. Is it all right? May I be excused? May
Thank
I
you.
move on
Yes,
and ask?
sir.
You've done a great job, man. Thank you
Thank
so
you, man.
much. Wait, I love this coming by Robert Ellington. Hell yes. I like that. Love that. Listen, we have here Deidre Garrett, who's a dear friend, professional. She's a wife, she's a mom. She cares deeply about things in the community, a lifelong Wisconsin resident, you name an organization, and she's a part of it um, because she believes in working to make the community better and stronger. And she's one of my major, she and her husband, Jerome, and their family, one of our major and key donors. I'm so glad that you can take a few minutes to be here before we finish up. Ms. Deidre, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. Jason got me fired up asking me those questions and allowing me to talk about what I'm talking about. And Deidre, this is happening. This isn't just like talk, like one day. Like the community is coming together to make this happen. And as a Black influencer who's lived in this community, watching not only my own community, meaning Black people, come together, but my own community means everyone who calls Madison and Wisconsin home, coming around to make this happen in a historic fashion humbles me, it excites me, and it reminds me that even though things are very, very difficult for a lot of people, a lot of folks growing in the same direction, doing something together can make a big difference. So my first question for you is, why is a space like this important to someone like you and your husband Jerome and your two wonderful children? Why is a space like this so important?
Yeah, there are many reasons, but I would say the Center for Black Excellence provides a space where cultural history, achievements, and values are celebrated. The other thing is for me, when I think about it, it serves as a hub where educational resources, mentorship, and leadership development will be curated. And mostly what you honed in on earlier, just for me as a mother, it's really important for young Black children like mine, who are ages 10 and 5, to see people who look like them in different positions of power, influence, and to see people who are doing amazing things and to help cultivate their self belief, their aspirations, because they have a lot of potential and representation matters. And I think the Center for Excellence will showcase that success and they'll showcase what's attainable for Black youth and for young people as well. I also think, which you pointed on a little bit earlier, I think the center will be a space that will really help heal and uplift resources. When we talk about mental health and cultural affirmation and understanding, I think it's going to be transformational in that space and really help us create a healthier future for our next generations.
Yes, that's fantastic. So what motivated you and Jerome to give so generously to this campaign?
Yeah. Um, I would say, firstly, we are big on giving back to our community. So that's probably from our personal fulfillment type part. And we are also big on bringing joy to others, to be honest, because that's important for us to give back because so much has been given to us. But we also understand the importance of leaving a legacy. And I mentioned for our children, we want them to see that we are giving back to support our community. And even though they'll be able to reap the rewards of that in many generations after, we want them to understand the importance of giving. And then also, lastly, for us, we're really, really passionate about creating positive societal change. So we want to be a part of the change. So that is why it was important for us to help be a part of the Center for Black Excellence.
I appreciate that. You just answered my third question, which was, what are your hopes for the center's impact? And you just slam dunked
Yeah,
um, that one. And oh, please go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, it's more than hopes for me for the center because I already know the center is going to do some dynamic things. I know it's going to change narratives and perspectives just about Black people. I know that it's going to promote education and lifelong learning, which is really important in our community and beyond. I know it's going to empower future generations. And what's most important to me, especially as a Black mother, is celebrating and preserving Black culture through my children. So I think ultimately it's going to be a transformative space where individuals and families will thrive.
Definitely. One of my quotes is, culture is how we bequeath greatness to the next generation. It's how we pass that down. And you'll already do that in your children and with them because I know them, I love them, see them, but I love that they will be able to do that with other children. And and for children who may not always see that around them or in their homes, they will see it at the center. And so this is our way of caring for everyone. This is not for the elite. This is not for those that are in need. This is for the Black community in all of our vastness. It's for us to come and celebrate. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate your generosity, yours and Jerome's and your families. Thank you for being here to underscore this. And so thank you. What I want to say last to folks is that for everyone who gives during this campaign, again, we're calling this the History Makers Campaign, or History in the Making campaign, because it's not just back, but it's moving ahead. But we have this new rendering that we've never shown anyone, and it's this drum wall. It's our sacred beats of legacy. And we're working with Zebra Dog, one of our designers, to help us put the names of every person who's a part of helping us make history. And this is at the end of the wall on the entry level where there's a coffee nook. There's a drum head that's committed just to history in the making. I think we can go in one more slide. Look at that beautiful space and the colors where we will connect, and you can see Black Excellence Campaign, Black History in the Making. But everyone's name will be on here. Come on. We know that this is not why people give, but this doesn't dissuade people from giving. For every person who gives between now and the end of April will be named here for perpetuity. Now, after that, no more names go up. I know I don't want to sound like a late night infomercial, but after that time, we can't do this anymore. My team has got to shut this down because we got to get everybody's names all out there. But right now, your giving matters. I want to put the slide up about what you can do next. I want you to be able to see the QR code and the link. We have information for you to share. We have a flyover video that takes about 3 minutes to watch. It's a walkthrough this beautiful space. We have a link for 24/7 cam that allows you to watch a time-lapse camera that will show what's happening in this space. And again, when we're going to send an email to follow you, we're just leaving this up in case you want to pull out your phones now and use the QR code. We're going to send you the link as a follow-up, and to everyone that's registered here. But now is the time, not just because you get your names on the wall, but because we need you, and Madison deserves better, and we can do better. And we've done so much of the hard work. $30 million, we can get to that last million. We are at the end of our time. I went over just about 2 minutes or so, but I'm grateful for my guest. I'm grateful for Mr. Fields and the folks behind the camera and behind the scenes that have helped this to happen. Listen, we have an opportunity in Wisconsin to change the narrative. We have an opportunity to do something, our small part, a large part, to push back against the assault on DEI work or the truth about history or the celebration of various people groups. And we can do more than just pout and talk to the television and yell at the radio. Take a moment now. Don't wait until tomorrow. Take a moment now. Give, and give generously, and give sacrificially. And when this is finished, we're going to say that we've all done it together. And I will remember you, but most importantly, history and the drum wall will remember you and your generous contribution. Let's give like this matters to you and your children. Let's give like this is our opportunity. Let's give like this is all of our issue and not just the issue for the Black community. And let's give like we're thinking about future generations and we want to live harmoniously in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for allowing me to share this vision. And thank you, broader community, state of Wisconsin, even federal leaders who have secured funding for us. Thank you for making this dream come true, this dream that's been led, inspired by, and motivated by the Black community for the good of the broader community. Thank you, and have a great night.